talk about Ayurveda in as simplest terms that we can. Starting with the definition of the term itself. Ayurveda is a combination of two words, Ayus and Veda. Ayus could be thought of as life, Veda as knowledge. And so this could easily be translated to the knowledge of life or like a living body of knowledge. I think the easiest way to look at Ayurveda is to begin with what many teachers refer to as the tripod of life or the three pillars of Ayurveda. And these are digestion, sleep, and creativity. The first one is arguably the most important, especially when we stick to the point of view of Ayurveda itself. This is the knowledge of life, and life begins with our digestion. Our digestion is a product of our diet. Diet is known as Ahara in Ayurveda. And when we are practicing Ayurveda, we're paying very, very special attention to what's known as the Agni. And the Agni is, it's many things within a human being, but primarily it is the digestive fire. Everything that we put into our body has to be metabolized by the digestive fire. It has to be assimilated into the bloodstream, and it is building everything that we are. There's a constant, never-ending process at hand. When the Agni is strong, the tissues of the body, called the Dhatu, are formed properly. The mind becomes calm, the elimination is regular and easy, and we do not form what's called ama. When Agni is not working correctly, whether that's through the improper combination of foods, not eating enough, eating too much, eating not correctly for either your constitution or not correctly for the current season, this will disturb the Agni. And when the Agni is disturbed, it creates a metabolic residue called ama. You don't have to reach too far to try to correlate what is ama in, let's say, scientific terms. But ama is everything that is the result of food not digesting properly. And so this can literally manifest as, for example, a white coating on the tongue that you can observe in the morning. If this coating on the tongue has a thick white quality, we would refer to this as kapha ama, or a thicker, more unctuous ama. If it has sort of a dry or gray or even a brown color to it, this is ama mixed with vata dosha. And can indicate other vata imbalances down the line. It can indicate improper routines or around food and around meal times. And if this ama on the tongue in the morning is more of a yellowish or green color, we would refer to this as ama mixed with pitta or pitta ama. This would indicate either an infection of some kind or simply too much heat in the system. And we're seeing that reflected in the residue on the tongue. And this is just one facet of what ama is, how it is created, how it manifests. When Agni is strong, when ama is not being created, what is being created is proper Dhatu. And Dhatu translates to the body tissues. And so that's rasa, rakta, mamsa, medas, ashti, maja, and shukra dhatu. There's 7 dhatus. There's also some subsidiary upadhatus, and this can be seen as the fundamental body matrix. And so Agni is really important. Our diet is really important, and everything that goes into that. And by paying attention to your diet, to this digestive fire, we are able to form the body properly, and from the body, the mind and emotions have a good container within which to also function and to properly, therefore, digest and assimilate the experiences that come up on a day-to-day basis. So digestion is the first pillar of life we just discussed, and now we'll talk about sleep as the second pillar of life, or Nidra. Nidra is extremely important. I mean, just imagine any day where you did not sleep well, or a series of days where you have not slept well. This affects everything. Whereas the food we put into our body and the maintenance of our digestive fire is fundamental to forming these 7 dhatu layers, or the 7 tissues of the body. Sleep is also a very important factor for the ojas and for our overall mental well-being, which in terms of both Ayurveda and Jyotish, we refer to a term called sattva. So when we are able to completely let go of the body, when we are able to let go of the day, when we are able to allow ourselves to undergo this natural process of falling asleep, we are able to maintain a strong, stable sense of sattva. And that sattva is reflected in our overall contentment. It is reflected in our ability to process our emotions and to be present in your life. This is sattva. Ojas is of similar importance to sattva. It's often thought of as the 8th dhatu. And while there's somewhat of a linear process of dhatu creation from rasa all the way to shukra dhatu, ojas is sort of the end result of this proper formation and of good sleep and of leading your life and in a way that is satisfying to you. Ojas is a form of stability. We often translate it to immune strength, but it could also be thought of as your strength of self. The strength of your ability to remain in sattva, the strength of your body to remain strong and not break down or to withstand disease. And this ojas, while on one hand can be thought of as the 8th dhatu, has a very subtle faculty in that it actually sustains all of the dhatus, as well as being the primary container for our mental and emotional health. And ojas is certainly the end result of every effort we're making towards our own health and well-being. But sleep is of a huge importance to that final creation of ojas, and once again, this maintenance of sattva. Lastly, we have this idea of brahmacharya, which, if you go online and you look up some basic information on Ayurveda, if you look for the definition of brahmacharya, will often be translated as abstinence. And then we'll barely get a definition where it's this idea of not using your sexual energy or keeping your attitude focused on God. I think this is very superficial, and I think if we break down the word, Brahma, we can think of the deity Brahma, or the idea of Brahma is this creativity, this creative force that's creating the world. Charya is the path we walk. It's the direction our feet are taking us. And so I like to translate this as the proper use of our creative energy, which does include our sexual energy. If we get really grounded into what we're talking about here, and especially in terms of proper digestion and the formation of those tissue layers all the way up to shukra dhatu. Shukra dhatu does manifest in our body as our sexual fluids, as our capacity to have sexual vitality and create children, but also to have a creative and sustaining force in the world. If you are deficient in shukra dhatu, you will not be able to create a lasting impact on the things that you're trying to create. And so brahmacharya has this very beautiful connotation as really getting behind your own creativity, taking all the steps necessary in terms of paying attention to your digestion, getting good sleep, and then breathing this vitality into your life itself. Again, on a basic level, we can definitely, especially when we're looking at pathology, get right down into maintenance of the sexual fluids. And, I think in a natural way, when when you're sick, you know, you don't feel very sexy. You're not coughing and sneezing and, you know, have nausea and all this stuff, and you know, lacking sleep. You know, the sexual energy is not moving out of you trying to create, and so that is nature's way of saying, let's pull everything back inside. Let's let the dhatus, let's let the Agni, first of all, become restored. Let the Ama and the poisons and the toxins digest and metabolize. And when that fire's burning strong, let's get some good sleep. And over enough time, the Dhatus will naturally regenerate and restore itself. That final Dhatu, Shukra, will be restored. Over a little more time, Ojas will be restored, and contentment and resilience, a very key word when we're talking about Ojas, will also be restored. And then we can continue to walk our path of Brahmacharya, which is to create a lasting and sustaining impact on the world around us, which feeds back. It creates good space in the world, and that good space then also co-creates us and gives us more opportunity to practice this ritual of self-care, this ritual of paying attention to our digestion, you know, really romancing the sleep process and making sure that when you are going into the evening, you see that on the horizon. We're paying attention. It's 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Let's keep welcoming in that natural process of falling asleep. And so, as you can see, I started out talking about digestion and then sleep, and then we went into creativity, and now we're just sort of weaving these concepts together, because these three pillars, this is who you are, in a sense of these are the three broad brushstrokes that are absolutely creating who you are every day in a very practical, real sense. You are the end result of how well you are doing with these processes. And so when we're self-assessing, or if we're working with an Ayurvedic practitioner, ask any Ayurvedic practitioner, this is kind of the first, again, the broad brushstrokes. How's the digestion? How is your sleep? If those two things aren't working, that's where we're going to start. If there's pathology that you're coming towards, we're still going to be remedying this first, because you could have a pathology and there could be the perfect herbal medicine in the perfect form for that pathology. But if the digestion isn't working, that medicine is not going to get to the tissues to heal that pathology. If you're not sleeping, then any medicines that you put in, like a bucket with a hole, are just going to fall out. If you are not taking the right actions in your day-to-day basis, if you are in a job you hate, or a relationship that's abusive, or if you're just so full of boredom because you haven't taken a good enough look at who you are and what kind of impact you want to make on the world around you, then these remedies aren't going to have the lasting and deep impact that we want them to. So if you like what we're talking about, I really advise you to let's get together. Whether there's a specific pathology that you want to work on, there's a health concern that's been bothering you lately. Let's take a good look at that. Let's see how it relates to these three pillars: digestion, sleep, creativity. From that foundation, we can give specific herbal remedies, specific dietary remedies, even specific exercise regimens or meditation practices. And then we can tie that into the path you're walking in this world, and how does this correlate? How do those two or three faculties correlate and support each other? And this is really what Ayurveda is all about. Like we said at the beginning, Ayurveda is the knowledge of life, but it really also is. It's a living body of knowledge, and it's something that's designed to evoke your living body of knowledge. It's not something outside of you. This is the desire to be well and to do well in the world that naturally arises within you when we take a careful look at these three factors and how they relate to who you are. So thanks so much. Check out my website and any previous videos that I may have posted, and get in touch with me soon. Let's do it.